Hello students and viewers at home. You're welcome to yet another time again on the Rock online tutorials. Of course, yes, we have been getting some of the testament, especially from our previous classes that were held, and for those who have written maybe the UTME exam and some of the exams as well. So we could see that a lot of people actually really did well. From watching most of the videos, the lectures, and how those questions are answered. And of course, this is another time too to treat, especially for those who are still having other exams like post-UTME, the schools of nursing, health, technology schools, and of course, Waec and NECO, NABTEB, and all other O-level exams. And that is why we have succinctly picked some questions from those past questions from Waec, NECO, so that we get them treated and we see how they can be solved easily. And of course too, don't forget to hit the notification button, you like and share, and I would like also to see your comments. So that is where we move. And yes, again, this is your English coach, Jato Abdurrahman, again here. Having to take you English, some questions, like I've said, succinctly picked from most of the O levels, and which must be attended to and clearly understood, and at the same time as well, if comments are going to be done, then I want to see them as well. Okay, so actually one thing is, you must actually read those instructions given very carefully. In fact, this is the most important aspect of any examination at all you want to write. You must make sure that you read the instructions and clearly understood before you can lay your hands on any of the questions. Like for this, in each of the following sentences, there's one underlined word and one gap. From the list of the words lettered A to D, choose the one that is underlined, the most nearly opposite in the meaning to the underlined words. Mostly, now let me talk about this. First, we are talking about nearly opposite in meaning, because most times, you know, the power of instructions to an African man, mostly it's a thing to be discussed, because we tend not to hearken to instructions mostly, and in fact we don't even bother reading. That is why most of our, if we want to use any of gadgets or utensils, you see that the first thing we throw out is a manual that should give an instruction to how those things should be used. So that is why mostly it affects us as well in examinations. Some questions are to be answered, some are said not to be answered, but of which you are answering a wrong question, and definitely you're thinking you have actually answered rightly. So it's a most nearly opposite to tell you that there are some opposites, but that is not a nearly opposite. So because we have the syntactic kind of meaning to the word. So collocatively, can the word actually stay in that position of the gap? And that is what, say, at the same time, correctly fill the gap in the sentence. So we're talking about collocation here, that is field language. In what field? There are some words you can use for human beings. So there are some you can only use for characters, not humans. So for instance, okay, incredible, incredulous. These are synonymous, but when you are talking about being incredulous, you use it for human. But talking about incredible, you use it for non-human, which means unbelievable for the two. Oh, that man is incredulous. It tells incredible stories. So, and of which, if you check these two words up in the dictionary, they relatively mean same thing. But actually, when it comes to collocations, they cannot represent each other in any of questions. So, we are talking about nearly opposite in meaning now. So, now we have series of questions and the options as well. So number one, Though my mother was convinced about the success of the business, her manager remained dash. So, convinced is the word. Then we're talking about the nearly opposite in meaning to convinced. That is actually clearly enough understood. That is conviction. So now, if skeptical, serious, confused, concerned, and of course here, the answer is skeptical. Skeptical here means that you are not yet sure. You're unsure of what is actually going to happen. So, conviction, then skeptical as the opposite. Number 2. Judgment should always be in favor of the innocent and not the dash. Innocent. Innocent means exonerable. That you are exonerated. You are not the one to you are not culpable to whatever is done. So, and of course, the opposite is guilty. Guilty. So, of course, you can have accused as very synonymous, but not actually as guilty. Because we're talking about innocence for a human now, then you find the other person guilty. Number 3. Liar is quite reliable, but his sister is dash. Unswerving, untrustworthy, deceptive, pretentious. Just like I just explained, you see that untrustworthy, unswerving, deceptive, pretentious could look synonymous. But you're talking about reliability of a human now. That is one to whom you can hold on to that, okay, you can vouch for. So, and the next answer, because you are talking about human, so that will be untrustworthy. So why are you so untrustworthy rather than deceptive or pretentious? Number 4. The gullible are not the dash usually fall prey to tricksters. The gullible. Gullible means easily deceivable. You can easily fall a prey of anyone. Then unfriendly, carefree, brave, discerning. Discerning means having the ability to find out false facts, fictions, non-fictions. So that is discerning as opposite to gullible. Number 5. Terms humility contrast with his brother's dash. Humility, tending to be submissive or respectful there. So we have haughtiness, stubbornness, gentleness, and quietness. Looking at this as well, they look rather synonymous. But a humble mind, that is, for a human, Tom has been humble. His humility that is contrast with his brother's haughtiness, which is a kind of a high level of obstinacy. So number 6. The life of a man appears long, but in reality it is dash. Brief, quick, shortened, stunted. Of course, this is why you often find most of the questions difficult. Because looking at the options, you can be very much confused as to, okay, yes, when you say long, that opposite, okay, you can say, oh, well, quick, brief, stunted, and of course, at the same time, shortened. But you're talking about life now. So, and when it comes to life, then you have a shortened life as an opposite of long. Number 7. In the interest of peace, it is better to dialogue than to be dash. To dialogue, that is having some kind of consultations. That is both having some kind of mutual consultation. And when consultation fails, what's next? Confrontation. That is confrontational. It is in the interest of peace, it is better to dialogue than to be confrontational. So that is a fight. Number 8. All the wealth amassed by a greedy father is often dashed by undisciplined children. Amassed, that is gather. So, and of course, you're talking about wealth here. The next thing should be squandered, which is an opposite of amassing. That is squandered. Number 9. Many people find cod liver oil disgusting, but soldiers find it dash, refreshing, medicinal, pleasant, bitter. Of course, you're talking about a drug here, and I think the smell So, since you are having a disgusting form, then the next should be pleasant, which is option C. Number 9, 10. The arrival of the riot police at our campus dash the tension rather than mitigate it. Dash the tension. So we are talking about mitigation, which is having to shorten. So now the next opposite should be heightened. Heightened, that is option B. You heighten the tension. Then we are after section 2. Then from the word letters, the letter A to D, choose a word that best completes each of the following sentences. So we have left out of words opposite in meaning, and of course now we're trying to choose semantics, that is how should be what words should be used for particular certain kind of expressions or sentences. Investigations revealed that the senior students, that's the juniors threw stones at the principal's car. That is, they are trying to allow or spur up those juniors to do that. That is instigated. That is, investigations revealed that the senior students instigated the juniors to throw stones at the principal's car. Like I said about collocation, that is the best word to fit in there. So, number 12. The Supreme Court dash the ruling of the lower court. We're talking about the decisions of cases here, judgment in courts, nullified, abused, proclaimed, cancelled. So, and of course, talking about court. So, since this, the ruling of the lower court made a stand, and the higher court is trying to actually abrogate it, so definitely that is nullified. That is, the Supreme Court nullified the ruling of the lower court. 13. The board has dashed the film because it contains some nude scenes. The board. So we're talking about film now. So that's why I did say the issue of collocation should be taken into consideration. So there are some words that are actually apt to certain form of field, and when it comes to other field, though not very wrong, but will not be fitting. So now the board to a film, edited, censored, examined, isolated. Of course, you censor a film so that at least to actually get it controlled. Censored, that is option B. Number 14. Many young graduates have dashed to the west in search of greener pastures. That is moving from one country to the other. So that is emigration. So many young graduates have emigrated to the west in search of greener pastures. 15. The committee let her go because they considered her explanations dash. So what do you do? What kind of explanation could you have given and the committee could have allowed you go? So that is plausible. That is agreeable sort of explanation. So definitely you will be allowed go. Number 16. The company has paid dividends to its staff. To whom should a company pay dividends? And of course, that's the shareholders. So you pay dividends to shareholders and not buyers, wholesalers or consumers. So shareholders, that is option C. 17. Within 1 year, that country has dashed its currency 5 times, reduced, devalued, revamped, defaced. So when you are trying to bring about some kind of currency that is having to change the faces, you can have it to be defaced rather than saying it is reduced, devalued, or revamped. So that is, you change the face of the currency that is defaced so that other ones could actually come in. Number 18. The man was arrested because he dashed in his payment of the loan or in the payment of the loan. Passed, delayed, deferred, defaulted. Of course, we're talking about payment now. So you could have defaulted in your payment. So defaulted, option D. 19. Yeah, many members of the political parties dash to opposing parties just before elections. movement from one party to the other. So that is defection. That is, many members of political parties defect to opposing parties just before elections, rather than saying depart, change, or go. Of course, these are syntactically synonymous, but you are talking about political parties jumping from one to the other. You say defection. That is defect, option C. 20. The boy must have dashed the disease from the school. The boy must have dashed the disease from the school. That is to catch up with a disease. And the next word to be used is contracted. You contract a disease. And mind you, you don't contact a disease. You could have contracted the disease from the school. Because this is an often error. So, and of which it is also a common kind of question. So take note very much of that. So 21. Yeah, we are in the third section. After each of the following sentences, a list of possible interpretations is given. Choose the interpretation that is most appropriate for each sentence. So that is sentence interpretations, and in this aspect, you have some interpretations on meanings, which is word meaning. We have some on idioms, then we have some on phrasal verbs. So you are going to reason it in a kind of a literary way, that is figurative, rather than literal, which is ordinary meaning. So they have more of insidious meanings than the way they appear. So we'll move to the next question. Now, 21. The class captain got cold feet. To develop a cold feet when he was asked to lead a protest. To develop a cold feet means, this is an idiom, it means to be nervous. That is, you are not actually, it's a sign of timidity and not actually wanting to do what you want to do. So that is nervous. 22. Street traders often try to palm the customers off with faulty goods. To palm off someone. To palm off someone is like having to persuade, though in a tricky way, persuade someone to buy or take what they don't actually want to. So that is trick customers into buying faulty goods. That is, you are palming the person off. So 23. He has broken new grounds in cancer treatment. To break a new ground. That is with his drug. He has broken new grounds in cancer treatment with his drug. Like I said, don't forget, this is more figurative meaning rather than literal meaning. It is not the same way those words are written that you should reason them to be the answers you pick. So most of them are insidious. So you need to critically look into them because they are idioms. So when you are breaking a new ground, it means you are introducing a kind of new method. That is, you are bringing another pounds in the flesh. That is, introduce a new method in cancer treatment. So breaking a new ground means you are bringing something new, which should be followed as well, or you expect to be followed by others too. 24. The principal stood aground. Where one stands one's ground. The principal stood aground even when the students revolted. For one to stand one's ground means you are maintaining what you have actually said. That is your disposition. So maintained a position means standing by her ground there. So, okay, looking after young children can tax one's patience. What does it mean to tax one's patience? It means the person had actually been exhausted of endurance, so you should still need more. That is trying to eat up your kind of endurance, so you require more. That is, it requires more endurance. 26. When the show was about to begin, we were still at 6s and 7s. So what does it mean to be 6 and 7? Intimate, in close group, in close range. So that is in groups. So when the show was about to begin, we were still at 6s and 7s. That is, we were in groups. So maybe later on, they could be far away or no longer very close to each other. 27. My aunt's rough driving could make one tear one's hair out. So what does it mean as an idiom to tear your hair out? So it means actually you're very worried. That is, it gets very worried. As my aunt's rough driving actually gets very worried. That is, you'll be actually out of patience, or you are feeling insecure. So that is why you could say, okay, it's tearing my hair out. 29. 28. We never expected that father will read the riot act. Father will read the riot act. What does it mean to read the riot act? That's to give a stern warning. That is, it means it warned us to stop making trouble. Okay, so it cannot go exactly like this. Like I said, it cannot be literal that, oh, taught us the riot act. Reading a riot act means you're actually warning the group or the persons involved. 29. You will certainly break his heart if you tell him that. Of course, this is common. What does it mean to break someone's heart? So it will make him very sad and unhappy. So 30. He's at a crossroads of his life. Now, you have to complete this. When one is at crossroads, then you are indecisive. Now, so this means that is the time, it is the time for him to dash. So this is coming like an antithesis. So that is antithetical to what you are asked to do. That is, this means that it is time for him to make a very important decision. That is to be decisive now. So actually, the meaning of being in crossroads means that actually you are indecisive. So now it is time for him to make decisions. 31. Okay, this is another section, and from here you also look at, pick an option from option A to D, the one that's okay, that is nearest in meaning to the underlying word as it is used in the passage. Don't forget, as it is used in the passage. So we are talking about the contextual meaning. Connotatively, in what context is the person talking? So not just synonym, but can it actually replace in that context or in that field? So here we go for the next question. Amina is fond of making derogatory remarks about her brother. Derogatory. Derogatory means demeaning or belittling, trying to bring you down. So weakling. So that is belittling. That is, Amina is fond of making a belittling remark. So 32. His jail terms are to run concurrently. Concurrently means at the same time. So for instance, giving different kind of verdict, that is sentencing for maybe 3 years, another one for 4 years. So if it is asked to be run concurrently, it means you're spending just 4 years. So because as you are actually serving for the 3, you're also serving for the 4. So, and concurrently means simultaneously at the same time, running in pari passu, unlike consecutively. If you two work consecutively, it means after one, you start another. 33. Here's a man who comes from a background of entertainment. Oh, that is a background now. That is, oh, he has a background of teaching. Background here means experience. You know, that is what the person is born in. So it looks like a place, a culture, a mood, but you are talking about experience now. So it doesn't really mean where you are born. So if I say, oh, I is actually having a background of politics, it means the kind of, the person is not a novice or a medical in such kind of field. So it means the person actually had some kind of experience that can be tagged. 34. She has always been grateful that you saved her from kidnappers. Grateful. Grateful. That is thankful. Grateful. Thankful. 35. The whole place was in turmoil. In turmoil when we got there. Turmoil or tumult the main confusion. That is a sort of igudi-pigudi. When things are in disarray, you cannot really figure out what is happening. So that is confusion. 36. Child's concern for Anna is affected. Is affected. So that is child's concern for Anna is affected. Affected here. Now say insincere, incorrect, weak, unfair. So having the word affected as used now, just like I did explain, you have to look at the notion of the kind of a statement itself, that is concern for Anna is affected. It means it is not strong enough. So that means weak. 37. Corporal punishment is meant to be a deterrent to the indiscipline. Deterrent, to deter, that is, discourage one from doing from engaging in certain act. So that is what we call deter. That is, if the person is punished, definitely it will deter others from doing that. That is discouragement. 38. The new bank is fast becoming insolvent. Insolvent. So apart from that, the fact that you are indebted, you have nothing as well on you. That is bankrupt. Bankrupt. That is in a state of sort of a penury. Not only that you don't have, you are also indebted. So 39. He did all he could to defend his master. He did all he could to defend his master. So what do you do there? Actually, you have fortify, secure, protect, cover. So to defend his master. Defense here means you are trying to make way for the person's kind of ills not to be seen. So that is to cover. Yeah. Covering here does not mean you are putting a lid on a plate. So it means you are trying to exonerate the person from a wrongdoing. 40. I hope the principal would be gracious enough to forgive us. I hope the principal will be gracious enough to forgive us. Cordial, polite, merciful, gentle. Of course, to be gracious means to be merciful. That is, you try to mettle the kind of punishments. Hello students, trust you have been actually enjoying the class so far. So kindly please hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Also like, share and leave comments so that this is how we're going to know how we've been trailing in the whole class. So thank you, brother.